Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and today there are some spoilers for Campaign 3 up to episode 118. So if you aren't caught up with that yet, I recommend getting caught up before watching this video. And this is your last spoiler warning, because no one likes spoilers. Spoiler. At the end of episode 118 of Campaign 3, the Bell's Hells stand at the end of the line with one final question before them. They stand before Imogen, who is being taken over by Predathos. The question is, should they take Predathos' power and use it to change the world of Exandria forever, or should they kill Predathos, potentially killing Imogen in the process, though that's not confirmed, and then keep Exandria the way it is with the gods remaining in power? Today I want to talk about these options and what they lead to, and how the party seems to feel about everything in this situation. If Imogen can take control of the power of Predathos, the party can do one of three things. They can either kick the gods of Exandria out, changing the world forever and how magic moves between the world of Exandria itself and the other realms. This will lead to the people who followed the gods will be left without any guidance, the guidance that they've been getting their entire lives and as long as the gods have been around in Exandria. Crushing the spirits of these people, as the gods who they loved and thought loved them are now gone. Whether they were killed or ran away, the gods would still be gone. A power vacuum will be created, and this will likely lead to conflict, as power always leads to people fighting for it. However, this will leave the future of the world of Exandria in the hands of the mortals and the people, to grow and potentially reach the highest heights similar to Avalier and Aor once again, and maybe even beyond that. The gods will no longer be able to push mortals down and hold them back. Only mortals will be able to do that to themselves and to other mortals. And most importantly, with the gods gone, another calamity where the followers of the gods are the only ones who truly lose will never happen again. And now for the second option, to use Predathos' power. They can use it as a deterrent for the gods to restructure the way things work, to however the mortals want it in a new system. They can truly make the gods help the people instead of claiming they do, but then mostly only helping themselves. This deterrent will also be able to push back against the idea of a calamity, as a god-killing threat should stop them from stepping out of line. And that is as far as I'm going to speculate on this one, because truly this one is very open-ended. Anything could happen if they truly use the power of Predathos in this fashion, to sort of restructure the way that the, how I would say, hierarchy between the gods and the mortals works. It could completely change how everything works, and maybe moving beyond the realms would be a lot easier for people. Maybe the people can access stronger magic. We have no idea exactly how a changing of things would work, so to speculate too much on what could happen is a little bit out of reach for us to do as of right now. And the last option in using Predathos' power, and that is Braus and Asmodeus bend Predathos, or the will of the vessel, to their own will, and use the power of Predathos to kill the prime deities, likely turning the world of Exandria into a living hell, or however Asmodeus feels, and then more likely becoming the plot hook for the next campaign. And then there's the other side of the coin, to destroy the power of Predathos, which would lead to things largely being left the same as they were before. The gods would still be in power and likely still behind the divine gate. They'd still have power and influence over mortals. They'd still be able to lend their power to the mortals like they do currently, and the people would still have a place to put their faith and have someone to guide them when there is no one else there to do so. But the risk of the gods pushing mortals down and starting another calamity remains. So now that we know some of the outcomes depending on how the party proceed, I want to take a look at how we know the party are feeling in this moment. Again, episode 18 gave us really defined answers to this question. Before I do that, I do want to take a moment to set the scene a bit. That being, the party have just killed Ludinus and are standing in front of the hollowed cage. The party are questioning what to do next, as they aren't sure if it's even necessary for them to continue and move into the hollowed cage anymore now that the threat of Ludinus is gone. But then, Ludinus' body dissolves, and they cast Identify on his staff, and it seems his staff has the ability to bind a soul to it and then move it elsewhere, meaning Ludinus is possibly still alive somewhere. And the threat of Ludinus coming back to the hollowed cage still remains, as there are many other Exultant who he would likely look to absorb, as they couldn't find his quintessence array, meaning it likely went to a pocket dimension somewhere that he will be able to access again as well. So now back to how the party is feeling about all of this. I want to start with Orym, whose main goal was to defeat and kill Ludinus Deleth, which they did kind of. He suggests that they leave and collapse the tunnels to the hollowed cage, but most of the party fear that someone else or Ludinus would come back and try to open it once again, so the party enter and go after Predathos inside the hollowed cage. At this point, Orym just shuts off. I think he's made it pretty clear he's against using the power of Predathos, and he seems to be the only one on this wavelength. Kinda, but we'll get there. It seems Imogen and Laudna want to make it so that fate isn't decided for people, but Laudna would add to this and say that she wanted to speak for the Titans and the Elementals, and speak for those who can't speak for themselves. Ashton made it clear they didn't want anyone to lord over them anymore, and to make choices for them or anyone else. Chetney thinks that if someone is going to gain the power of Predathos, it should be one of them, as they know how they could use it for good. Dorian said that he was initially just there for the ride and to help the others out, but since he has a chance to steer the ship, he's going to take it and steer it how he wants to. And Fern doesn't know what she would do with the power and thinks that she shouldn't be the one to use it herself, but knows that something needs to change. And the biggest reason that she's here in the first place is if the world is going to burn, she kind of wants to see a front row seat to it. All of them are on the side of using Predathos' power in some way. We aren't sure if it's to make the gods run off or if they want to restructure things, but it definitely seems to be along the way of using the power to cause a great change. Lastly, there's Braus, who seems to be in a unique spot compared to the rest of the party. Braus agreed with Orym before they entered the hollowed cage. He thought that going into the hollowed cage on a whim, that Ludinus would come back or someone else would show up to use the power, wasn't worth doing. Braus thought the job was done, but there's another side to Braus' story here. Braus was told by Asmodeus two things. One, Predathos can't be released, and if it is, Braus must bend it to his will. After failing to make the party walk away from the hollowed cage in Predathos, it seems this will likely be his stance, that he tries to take the power of Predathos and bend it to his will or Asmodeus. And this will likely lead to the third outcome of using the power of Predathos, if he is able to succeed. But if he is not able to bend it to his will, Braus will likely kill the vessel, leading to not using the power at all. Now the question to the question is, which one is right? Should they use the power and change things, or should they not use the power and keep things the way they are? I can see the argument to both sides, but I feel like there's something we're forgetting here. The Rites races. They seem to have been forgotten in this conversation so far. Let's say that the party used the power of Predathos to get rid of the gods. Then the party bring the Rites races to the new version of Exandria, and the moon is likely gone now, because there's no reason for it to exist, nothing is being captured there. The people know that the creature that took away their gods came from there, and there's a lot of people that already know about this and will likely spread this info. The races of Rites will then be hated and shunned for their connection to Predathos. Matt confirmed after all that the Rylorans are literally born in the image of Predathos. I think that this is enough for me to say that there's too many negatives to using the power of Predathos. I think it'll be best for the party to fight Imogen and either save her in some way from being the vessel or destroying Predathos outright and outright killing Imogen in order to keep the world safe. I think the last thing to note about this is that we still don't know if there will be any collateral damage to using the power. What if Predathos kills people alongside with the gods? What if everyone resurrected by the gods are suddenly dropped dead because their power is gone? After hearing both sides, I still personally believe that there is too much of a risk to do what they think they need to do is right and removing the gods. And there's one thing that I want to note before we wrap up this video, and that is simply Laudna. Laudna claimed that she wanted to speak for those who can't speak anymore, and in that moment she meant that she was speaking for the Elementals and the Titans, which I thought was a little weird because she excluded the people of Exandria in this moment. They can't speak for themselves right now. They're not on the moon. The people of Exandria, a large portion of that population, follow the gods and use their gifts that they've given them for their entire lives. For them to not be talked about at all in this situation, and for the handful of people here, the 8 people here, to make a decision for the rest of the planet, doesn't seem right and doesn't sit right with me either. I truly don't believe that they're speaking for anyone but themselves in this moment, and they're a little bit too selfish in the idea of using the god's power without consulting other people. Now that lewdness has been taken out of the equation, I think it would be best for them to have pulled back, but we're a little bit too late at this moment. It seems that Imogen is about to become the vessel, and a choice truly needs to be made, and I think the party needs to stop being selfish, and they need to do something selfless and potentially kill Imogen to remove the power of Predathos from any equation. I do believe at this point they've gone too far without consulting the right people, and now they're going to have to pay the consequences for this. Of course, there is a chance that Imogen somehow gains control, but in the event that this doesn't happen, consequences will likely have to be paid, because that's what needs to happen here. They've made a mistake. We don't know what's going to happen. They haven't consulted anybody. Too many risks were taken, and not enough thinking was done before they did it. But I want to know what you would do if you were in the party's shoes. What would you do? Keep the world how it is, or would you change it forever? I'm excited to read the comments on this one. I'm very interested in seeing how people disagree with me or agree with me, and I'm curious what they would do. Would you want to change the world? Would you have talked to other people before doing this, or do you want to keep the world the same? If we're talking about, doing the things properly, people should have been informed and other people should have been talked to before doing all of this. So realistically, what would you do in the same shoes as the party? There is no option to talk anymore. It's either get rid of Predathos or use the power. And I'm curious what you would do. With all that being said, I will see you guys on Friday for the recap of episode 119 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role. Until then, peace.